Edition of Arirang News. I'm Mark Broom. Let's start with a look at the day's headlines. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un attends a South Korean concert in Pyongyang with his wife. Watching the first concert by South Korean pop stars in the north in over a decade, Kim suggests another event in Seoul this fall. Tumbling from the sky, a Chinese space lab is set to slam into Earth any time now. After nearly 7 years in space, the Tiangong 1 is expected to come down somewhere in the southern Atlantic. Plus, the Labour Union of South Korea's Kumho Tire accepts a sale plan to China's Doublestar in a bid to avoid being placed under court receivership. Our top story this morning, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his wife were among the guests on Sunday, the first of two special concerts in Pyongyang by South Korean artists. It seems he enjoyed it so much that he suggested holding another concert in Seoul in autumn. Oh Jung-hee starts us off.
For the first time in 13 years, a South Korean art troupe held a concert in Pyongyang on Sunday night, dazzling an audience that included North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his wife Ri Sol-ju. The concert, titled Spring is Coming, started at about 6:30 p.m. North Korea time. 11 different South Korean artists, including Cho Yong-pil, Lee Sun-hee, idol group Red Velvet, and Seo-hyun of Girls' Generation, performed at the concert. The 1,500-seat hall was completely full as the South Korean singers sang songs that represent the divided status of the two Koreas, and they ended the concert with songs titled Our Hope is Reunification and Until We Meet Again. Kim Jong-un's attendance was somewhat expected as the concert's start time was changed a couple of times on the day. He's known to have originally planned to watch Tuesday's concert, a joint one by South and North Korean artists, but had schedule problems. Kim said there should be more cultural and art performances between Seoul and Pyongyang and suggested holding another concert in autumn, this time in Seoul, signifying that the two Koreas are seeing fruitful results from their diplomatic push. South Korea's taekwondo demonstration team performed earlier on Sunday. The performance was attended by high-level North Korean taekwondo officials as well as Choi Hui, the chairman of the North's National Sports Guidance Committee. Around 2,300 North Korean citizens also watched the performance.
이번에 평양을 방문한 남측 태권도 시범단의 전체 성원들을 열렬히 환영합니다.
The 50-minute show featured smashing performances as well as dances that used taekwondo moves. The Pyongyang citizens in attendance clapped and enjoyed the performance, but showed no response when the South Korean team danced to the recent South Korean pop song Fire by boy band BTS. On Monday, South Korean taekwondo demonstration team will hold another performance, this time together with the North Korean team. The South Korean artists will hold a joint performance with their North Korean counterparts on Tuesday before returning to Seoul. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea and the United States resumed their joint military drills on Sunday as diplomatic relations continue to thaw here on the Korean Peninsula. The postponed drills, including the Foal Eagle and Key Resolve exercises, will wrap up before the April 27th summit between the leaders of South and North Korea and ahead of a meeting between US President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un next month. Nearly 300,000 South Korean forces and 11,000 US troops will take part in the 4-week exercise. The start was delayed at the request of South Korea until the end of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. The South Korean military says the size of the drills will be similar to that of previous years, but it's reported they'll be less intense with fewer US strategic assets involved to emphasize the defensive nature of the exercises. Pope Francis has encouraged multilateral peace talks on the Korean Peninsula ahead of the historic summits between the two Koreas and the one between the US and North Korea. During his traditional Easter address at St. Peter's Square on Sunday, the Pope voiced hope that the ongoing talks might advance peace and harmony and build relationships of trust within the international community. The Pope also mentioned the suffering of the people in war-ravaged Syria and the economic and political crisis in Venezuela. Shifting gears now to a plummeting Chinese space lab. China's decommissioned Tiangong 1 is hurtling towards Earth and is expected to re-enter the atmosphere within the next few hours. It was put into orbit 7 years ago as a prototype for China's ambitious space program. Let's connect to our Arirang at the News Centre for the latest developments. So Arirang, do we have an exact time frame now and the location of where it's going to come down?
Well, scientists have narrowed down a time frame to a 4-hour window beginning about now, actually. The European Space Agency says that based on the Tiangong 1's orbit, location for the re-entry will be between latitudes 43 north and 43 south. That covers a large chunk of the middle part of the planet, including all of Africa, most of South America, the continental US from Boston downwards, most of China and even Korea. The ESA says that it is as precise as it can predict, and it will have a better picture of the timing of the final plunge in the very final stages of the descent. That's because Tiangong 1's interaction with the high atmosphere is unpredictable, and since China has lost all control and communication of the module. And
Arirang, this has quite a lot of people worried. Should we really be that scared about this falling debris?
Well, Mark, the simple answer is no. Falling debris poses only a slight risk to people on the ground, and the odds of anything hitting someone are considered less than 1 in a trillion. You're much more likely to be struck by lightning or even win the lottery. Another thing to bear in mind is that space debris falls to Earth quite regularly, and as of yet, no one has been injured. Also, most of the bus-sized Tiangong 1 will burn up on re-entry, with only about 10% of the 8.5-ton spacecraft likely to survive. Any debris that does make its way through will also most likely splash down in the ocean. Back to you, Mark.
Well, that's reassuring to hear. Thank you very much, Arirang, for that report, and we'll be connecting to him slightly later. Now, Korea's ailing tyre manufacturer, Kumho Tire, has avoided being placed under court receivership after its labour union backed a plan to sell the firm to Chinese truck and bus tyre maker Doublestar. Under the plan, the Chinese company has vowed to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into Kumho Tire. Kim Hyo-sun reports.
Cash-strapped Kumho Tire has avoided bankruptcy as its labor union on Sunday voted in favor of selling the company to its Chinese rival Doublestar. 60% of its union okayed the sale plan, under which the Chinese tire maker buys a 45% stake in Kumho Tire for approximately $600 million through a third-party capital increase. Doublestar has also vowed to secure jobs for Kumho's 5,000 employees for 3 years after acquisition. To get the company back on track, Kumho's union members also agreed on a wage freeze until 2019 and returning parts of their work benefits. After Kumho's creditors signed a memorandum of understanding with the tire manufacturer on Monday, they will proceed to signing a sales contract with Doublestar before the end of June, according to its main creditor, the Korea Development Bank. Apart from the sales deal, Kumho's creditors will also inject around $190 million in additional funds to cover the firm's debts of over $2.2 billion. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea is ranked 8th in the world in terms of initial public offerings, or IPO, capitalization among 52 member states of the World Federation of Exchanges. According to the Korea Exchange, 80 companies were newly listed either on the country's main KOSPI or secondary KOSDAQ stock markets last year, raising a total of $7.4 billion. While the number of firms that made their market debut decreased slightly from the previous year, the size of the funds raised marked 40% growth on year. China is imposing new tariffs on meat, fruit and other products from the United States as retaliation against tariffs approved by the Trump administration on imported steel and aluminium. The Chinese Finance Ministry said in a statement on Sunday that it's increasing the tariff rates on 128 kinds of US products, with the new rates coming into effect on Monday. Tariff rates on 8 imported US products, including pork, will go up by 25%. China is also imposing a new 15% tariff on 120 imported US commodities, including fruit. And US President Donald Trump has linked his proposal to build a wall between the US and Mexico to the ongoing negotiations on NAFTA. He also renewed his call that the flow of illegal drugs and undocumented immigrants from the country must stop. Lee Seung-jae reports.
In a flurry of tweets on Sunday, President Trump threatened to pull the DACA deal off the table and demanded Mexico's help stopping illegal border crossers, or else he'd nix NAFTA. He added the southern neighbor is doing very little, if nothing, to stop illegal immigrants and drugs flowing across the border, as the U.S. leader repeated a threat he made earlier this year, warning a successful NAFTA renegotiation may hinge on Mexico making efforts to secure its side of the border. Last week, Trump made comparisons between the demilitarized zone and the Mexican border, saying that despite not getting paid much to help protect the DMZ that separates the Koreas, nobody comes through. He added the DMZ is protected by 32,000 soldiers, the finest equipment, and barbed wire, but little is done to protect America's own border. In addition, referring to the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, Trump said there would be no deal to legalize the status of millions of undocumented immigrants who were brought into the U.S. as children, adding that the U.S. border with Mexico was getting more dangerous. DACA, created by former President Barack Obama, was ended by Trump last year, but he gave Congress 6 months to pass legislation enshrining it. A deal has so far proved elusive, as Trump continues to blame the Democrats for not being able to fulfill his 2016 presidential campaign promise. The president said Border Patrol agents can't do their jobs properly because of, quote, ridiculous liberal laws that allow people caught for being in the country illegally to be released while they await a hearing before a federal immigration judge. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now back here in Korea, a supplementary budget worth some $3.8 billion is in the works to tackle youth unemployment and breathe life into regions hit by corporate restructuring. In a policy coordination meeting between the ruling party and the government on Monday, the two sides agreed to introduce a support package for young people that find work at SMEs, which includes tax cuts and cheap loans. The extra budget will also be used to provide financial support to those that have lost their jobs as a result. The two sides agreed that timing is key, calling for cooperation from rival parties to have the bill passed sometime in April. The government will submit the bill by Friday, and the Prime Minister will be giving a policy speech next Monday. South Korea has sent an anti-piracy warship to waters near Ghana after 3 Korean nationals were kidnapped by pirates. Following reports the South Korean crewmen were abducted in Ghanaian waters, President Moon Jae-in ordered the Munmu the Great, South Korea's anti-piracy naval vessel, to be deployed from Oman to help retrieve the crew. Seoul's foreign ministry says 9 pirates used a speedboat to race toward the Marine 711, hijack it and kidnap the crew. The pirates and the kidnapped Koreans are now believed to be in waters off Nigeria. However, authorities here say they have yet to identify the exact whereabouts of the hostages. As of Sunday night Korea time, they had also no information on the pirates or their demands. Korean researchers have found a new way to mass-produce vaccines for pigs against foot and mouth disease, and they have used an unusual ingredient, tobacco leaves. Park Se-young with more.
This factory is filled with tobacco plants. Using the leaves of these plants, Korean researchers have developed a technology to mass-produce a swine flu vaccine. After inserting swine flu antibodies into tobacco seeds, the researchers grew the plants and extracted the antibodies from their leaves. When infected pigs were injected with the vaccine, their temperatures dropped immediately. At 1/3 the price of existing cell-based vaccines, the plant-based vaccine is safe and can be used for pork exports.
It's much safer compared to live vaccines and can be used more easily on site. Its marker function helps us achieve FMD-free status.
Tobacco leaves can be harvested monthly since plant factories are unaffected by seasons or external conditions. The vaccine provides a healthy way to utilize the tobacco plant.
Instead of consuming tobacco the usual way, we can introduce techniques like protein extraction and vaccine production to create added values.
The manufacturing technique for plant-derived vaccines could be applied to the production of other medicines or for cosmetics. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Well, now let's get a check on some more of the international news that are making headlines here on this Monday morning. Let's connect back with our Noah Aram at the news centre. So, Aram, what else do you have for us?
Well, Mark, we start with the Japanese government's recent endorsement of new high school textbook guidelines claiming sovereignty over certain islands in the region. This has sparked a furious response from South Korea and China. Relations with Seoul have frayed even more after Tokyo's renewed claim to Korea's Dokdo Island in the East Sea, and now China is speaking up over Tokyo's claim to the Diaoyu Islands in the East China Sea, also known as Senkaku in Japan. At a regular press briefing over the weekend, Beijing's Foreign Ministry spokesman Liu Kang said the Diaoyu Islands and its adjacent islands have been an inherent part of Chinese territory since ancient times. He also urged Japan to adopt a correct historical view when educating young people and to stop its provocations. 6 nations along the Mekong River have adopted an ambitious 5-year investment plan worth $66 billion. It was adopted at a summit in Vietnam over the weekend that included leaders and top officials from China, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Vietnam and Myanmar. At least $7 billion will come from the Asian Development Bank and the rest from governments and the private sector. The plan will consist of nearly 230 economic and social projects. 3 Spanish cross-country skiers have died in the Swiss Alps after being engulfed by an avalanche on Saturday. Police in the canton of Valais say 2 fellow skiers survived after another group of skiers alerted authorities of the incoming avalanche. The 5 Spaniards were crossing the famed Aletsch Glacier in southern Switzerland and heading to the Fietzerup area. Heavy snowfall has blanketed the Alps over the past few days, prompting avalanche warnings.
Every year, a total of 40 million umbrellas are discarded in Korea. As the figure indicates, they're considered disposable items that are easily replaced. To change the traditional view of umbrellas, stylish and durable handmade umbrellas are being introduced in the market. Find out about these umbrellas as well as the philosophy behind them. This is a tailor shop in Seoul. Along with high-end tailor-made suits, premium handmade umbrellas catch the eye. They're 20 times more expensive than mass-produced products, but still highly sought after with noteworthy repurchase rates.
I chose a shroop umbrella because of the classic design and beautiful colors, in contrast to mass-produced products. I used to think that umbrellas were only for temporary use, almost like a disposable item, but this brand changed my perception.
These umbrellas are more like fashion items to complete a modern man's wardrobe. And they were created by Cho Jang-hyun and Bang Lie of Shroop with the goal of changing people's perceptions of umbrellas. Knowing that weaker umbrellas perpetuate the vicious circle of discarding and repurchasing, the designers decided to create well-made, durable products with a classic twist. The colors and designs perfectly complement the designer's philosophy.
This is our crown ring, and the umbrella should be opened this way. We use vegetable tanned leather on this side because it will be touched by the customer, and all the stitches were hand-sewn.
Just like any artisan product, it requires a complicated process to create these umbrellas. Each piece is the culmination of some 130 procedures and a number of skilled artisans, each specializing in a certain skill. Therefore, the 2 designers have to coordinate with the artisans every time they receive a purchase order.
I visit each and every factory involved in the making of our umbrellas myself to ensure the quality of all the components used. It's quite tiring and inconvenient, but I'm going to continue taking charge of it to maintain our quality.
The first is to create the structure at an umbrella factory they've partnered with. The most important part of this process is to enhance the function and durability of the umbrella. The shaft and stretchers are made of fiberglass reinforced plastic, commonly used to produce fishing rods and golf clubs. It's light, durable, insulative, and anti-rust, just perfect for umbrellas. Once the basic structure is completed, leather crafting begins. The artisan cuts and sews leather by hand to create a handle. Another place is just in charge of imprinting. Each umbrella features the name of the customer laser engraved on the wooden handle to make it truly one of a kind.
This factory is in charge of engraving our customers' names using lasers. I always inspect the engraving process to prevent any possible errors.
The entire process takes 10 days, and then the designer applies varnish and polishes the engraving to add the ultimate final touch. Even after these thorough procedures, not every umbrella makes it to the customer. The designers believe that maintaining high standards is the only way for handmade products to keep their value. Indeed, they stay true to their ethos. The items we use say a lot about who we are. Now it's changing consumer culture and the general perception about umbrellas while protecting the environment as well. Handmade products are labor-intensive and expensive compared to those made by machine. Yet, they're authentic and support a tradition of skilled work in this digital era. That's exactly why we need to protect that legacy.
Good morning. Many of us in South Korea have been enjoying the spring weather under the beautiful cherry blossoms. The picture behind me was taken yesterday at the Cherry Blossom Festival, or Kumhangje, in Gyeongsang-buk-do province. And that spring warmth will continue in most cities, with Seoul, Beijing, and Tokyo expected to have unseasonably warm temperatures under mostly sunny skies. In fact, it will feel more like early summer in Seoul, with highs getting up to 22 degrees Celsius. Daegu and Gyeongju will make it to 25 and 26 degrees respectively. But high levels of fine dust in the capital area and many regions in the east will return to normal in the afternoon. With that, let's take a look at the international weather for viewers around the world. Many parts of South Korea will be under plenty of sunshine with very warm highs, while North Korea will see mixed conditions on Monday. And as for the rest of Asia, unseasonal summer storms are expected to hit many parts of Thailand from Thursday, with a summer storm warning put in place. Meanwhile, Perth and Sydney will be under plenty of sunshine with highs above 30 degrees Celsius. And heading to North America, winter has not taken its final bow just yet, with 2 to 4 inches of snow expected in New York. And as for South America, Buenos Aires will see much needed rainfall on Monday, possibly lingering into Tuesday morning. And taking you to Europe, those of you in Moscow will notice much milder temperatures by the end of the week. Lastly, to Africa, Addis Ababa will have frequent rainfall this week. And that's all the weather update for now.
Well, on that note, that's where we're going to leave the news for now. Our next bulletin is coming up at noon, Korea time. So until then, goodbye.